Battle of Mutina, fought in 43 BCE, was a pivotal moment in Roman history, marking a key clash between two prominent figures, Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus, and Mark Antony, a staunch ally of Julius Caesar. This confrontation came in the aftermath of Caesar's assassination, as Rome was plunged into chaos and power struggles. The battle is situated within the larger context of the developing conflict among the Second Triumvirate members, as Antony sought to consolidate power, while Octavian aimed to assert his position as Caesar's chosen heir. Ultimately, the Battle of Mutina underscores the dissolution of the Roman Republic, heralding the rise of imperial autocracy. The significance of the Battle of Mutina lies in its role as a catalyst for the subsequent reorganization of political power in Rome. The defeat suffered by Antony at Mutina forced him to retreat, temporarily granting the Senate's forces aligned with Octavian the upper hand. This victory not only elevated Octavian's status, but also laid the foundation for his eventual dominance over Roman politics, as alliances shifted in the complex dynamics of Roman leadership. Two real-world consequences of the battle highlight its importance. First, the aftermath saw the alliance between Octavian and the Senate quickly unravel when Octavian, dissatisfied with his treatment, marched against Rome and forced the Senate to acknowledge his authority. This action was a significant step toward his eventual assumption of absolute power. Second, the battle and its aftermath set the stage for the formation of the Second Triumvirate between Octavian, Antony, and Lepidus, who collectively purged their enemies and consolidated power anew. This alliance was integral to the subsequent trajectory of Rome's path toward empire. Opinions regarding the Battle of Mutina often revolve around its portrayal as a critical turning point in eroding republican ideals, with scholars noting that the very mechanisms intended to maintain Roman democracy were weaponized in this rising autocracy. However, some historians argue that the power struggles were inevitable, given the volatile political climate post-Caesar, suggesting that the battle merely expedited an already determined course. Challenges and controversies surrounding this battle include divergent interpretations of Octavian's intentions and the ethical implications of his actions post-Mutina, which some regard as self-serving and others as pragmatic steps toward restoring order. This point intricately connects to the broader narrative of Rome's transformation, as the battle illustrates the swift deterioration of the Republic's structural integrity and foreshadows the eventual establishment of imperial rule under Augustus. The Battle of Mutina, thus, not only shapes the immediate power dynamics, but also influences the profound transformation from republic to empire. The Battle of Mutina, occurring in 43 BCE, was a pivotal engagement in Roman history, marking a significant confrontation between Octavian, the future Augustus and Rome's first emperor, and Mark Antony, a leading supporter of Julius Caesar. This battle fundamentally shaped the power dynamics of the late Roman Republic, illustrating the intense political and military struggles that followed Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE. With the Senate uneasy about Antony's power, tensions culminated in open conflict at Mutina, located in present-day Modena, Italy. The significance of the Battle of Mutina lies in its role in consolidating Octavian's power and altering Rome's political landscape. While Octavian was allied with the Senate, Antony represented the Caesarians' interests. Following the battle, the two former allies became irreconcilable foes, setting the stage for the subsequent clashes that would ultimately result in the establishment of the Roman Empire. The Senate's decision to align with Octavian, despite his youth and initial lack of experience, underscored the desperation and volatility of the political situation. Two illustrative examples of the battle's real-world impact include the strategic maneuvers employed by both sides and the eventual emergence of the Second Triumvirate. Octavian, leveraging his adoptive connection to Julius Caesar and his cunning acumen, manipulated alliances and political narratives to rally support. Meanwhile, Antony's strategic military decisions during the siege showcased his seasoned command, despite the eventual failure to seize victory. Subsequently, recognizing the need for mutual survival, Octavian and Antony, along with Lepidus, formed the Second Triumvirate, a political alliance restructuring Roman governance and ending the power of the Senate for a time. Opinions on this battle often recognize it as a temporary victory for the Senate, but also a precursor to its demise as a significant political force. The battle highlighted the inefficacy of traditional republican governance against charismatic military leaders who commanded loyalty from the Roman legions. However, the Battle of Mutina and its aftermath were not without controversy. Some contemporaries viewed Octavian's rise and alliance with Antony as a betrayal of republican values. Additionally, Antony's vilification by Senate-aligned propagandists contributed to the polarized perspectives of these figures in historical narratives. This battle connected to other events by setting the groundwork for the future rivalry between Octavian and Antony. Following Mutina, the dynamics of Roman power shifted towards an inevitable confrontation between those vying for ultimate control, directly influencing the subsequent battles of Philippi and Actium, and eventually leading to Octavian's undisputed rule as Emperor Augustus. The Battle of Mutina thus served as a turning point that demonstrated the precariousness of political loyalties during this transformative period in Roman history. The Battle of Mutina in 43 BCE was a pivotal conflict in the power struggle, following Julius Caesar's assassination, featuring two of the most significant figures of ancient Rome, Octavian and Mark Antony. Octavian, later known as Augustus, was Julius Caesar's adopted heir, while Mark Antony was a loyal supporter and general of the assassinated dictator. Their clash at Mutina marked a critical turn in Rome's turbulent journey from republic to empire. The significance of Octavian and Mark Antony in this battle is immense. It wasn't just a military confrontation, but a decisive moment in Roman political history that set the stage for the future of the Roman Empire. Octavian's involvement in the battle demonstrated his political acuity and military prowess, establishing his legitimacy and paving the way for his eventual rise to power as the first Roman emperor. Meanwhile, Mark Antony's role underscored both his ambition and his susceptibility to strategic missteps, which would eventually contribute to his downfall. Two specific examples illustrate their significance. First, the aftermath of the battle resulted in the formation of the Second Triumvirate, a political alliance between Octavian, Antony, and Lepidus. This alliance temporarily unified them against Caesar's assassins, but also highlighted the tenuous nature of their relationship, underscoring the competitive dynamic that would later erupt into open conflict. Second, the political resolution at Mutina amplified Octavian's influence in Rome, allowing him to leverage the Senate's support against Antony and setting him on the path to become Augustus. Supporters of Octavian commend his strategic foresight and political acumen during this period, arguing that his decisions were crucial for maintaining stability in a fractured Roman state. However, there are potential challenges associated with this perspective. Critics might argue that Octavian's actions at Mutina were driven by personal ambition rather than the greater good of Rome. Additionally, some might question the ethical implications of how he maneuvered within the Roman political system, using manipulation and opportunism to achieve his ends. Alternative viewpoints suggest that Mark Antony, despite his eventual defeat, showed considerable leadership and resilience. His efforts to contest Octavian were not only motivated by personal ambition, but also by a genuine allegiance to his vision of Rome's future. In contrast, others view Antony's attempts as ultimately short-sighted, hindered by his entanglements and misjudgments. The events at Mutina are intrinsic to understanding the broader narrative of Roman history. The conflict between Octavian and Antony not only highlighted their individual ambitions, but also influenced subsequent military and political strategies, reshaping the landscape of Roman governance and power dynamics. The Battle of Mutina in 43 BCE was a pivotal confrontation in the power struggle between Octavian, who would later become Augustus, and Mark Antony, one of Julius Caesar's main allies. This conflict was part of the broader series of civil wars that erupted following Caesar's assassination, as various factions vied for control of the Roman Republic's future. At its core, the Battle of Mutina was essentially a clash between two of Rome's most formidable figures, each representing different political ambitions and methods of governance. It highlighted the tension between the Senate and individual military commanders, with Octavian initially aligning himself with the Senate to bolster his position against Antony's perceived tyranny. This alignment was crucial because it allowed Octavian to gain legitimacy and resources, showing how alliances could shift quickly in Roman politics. The battle served as a critical point in history by curtailing Antony's immediate power and setting the stage for the eventual formation of the Second Triumvirate. A significant example illustrating the battle's importance is Octavian's use of his family's connection to Julius Caesar to claim leadership. By invoking his adoptive father's legacy, Octavian could rally support, underscoring how lineage and public perception were vital tools in Roman political maneuvering. Another example is the Senate's precarious role. Initially siding with Octavian, they underestimated his ambition and resolve, a miscalculation that became evident when Octavian later turned against them to consolidate his power, leading eventually to the end of the Roman Republic. While contemporary sentiment in Rome might have supported Octavian as a stabilizing force against Antony, historical opinions vary. Some may argue that Antony was unjustly vilified, noting his attempts to uphold Caesar's reforms. Conversely, Octavian's calculated moves can be seen as necessary steps toward peace and unity, lending credit to his political acumen. However, this battle and its context were fraught with challenges. The swift change of alliances and the moral ambiguity of both leaders' actions fueled historical debates about their true motives. Antony's supporters might argue that Octavian's opportunism contributed to Rome's eventual transition from republic to empire, raising questions about the true cost of his victory at Mutina. In essence, the Battle of Mutina intricately linked political power plays with military strategy, reflecting the turbulence of late Republican Rome. It not only influenced the dynamics between Octavian and Antony, but also set a precedent for future engagements and ultimately shaped the course of Roman history by catalyzing events that led to the rise of the Roman Empire.